Hey there, I'm Sara Porritt, and you are tuning in to the Hear Us Roar podcast. Join me for inspired conversations with Asian women chatting about how ideas and passions can ignite truly transformative journeys. Can you believe we're already halfway into season 1? So far, Nikki Sun has shown me the power of media as a platform for change. Dawoon Kane helped me to understand how to find white space in a competitive market. April Tam Smith introduced me to a lifestyle of radical generosity. Pooja Agarwal has encouraged me to embrace being authentically myself, and Julie Young taught me how to coexist with fear. On today's episode, we'll switch things up a bit with a new segment called Conversations with Her, where I get to sit down with a wide range of friends and experts to discuss key topics of interest for the Asian American woman. In the first of this series, I hang out with Janet Lee, my herbalist, acupuncturist, and dear friend, to talk about how we can take better care of ourselves as we transition into the winter months. I met Janet when I got super sick the day before a big trip and decided to go to City Acupuncture for some last-minute emergency care. I'll be honest, before meeting this miracle worker, I really had no idea whether or not acupuncture actually worked, or if it's just some woo-woo practice. Janet healed me overnight. I'm not even kidding, and I've had her on speed dial ever since. She made me a believer and helped me to fall in love with traditional Chinese medicine, something I had grown up with but never really understood. I feel like there's a revival of interest in traditional Chinese medicine. I don't know how you feel about it or if you've spoken to your patients about it.
Right.
But I feel like it's no longer like the antiquated methods that your grandmother or mom would force upon you. It's now kind of like cool and hip, and the whole word holistic, has become something really trendy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think it's not only trendy, but it's being covered by insurance, which was something that, never existed. Even, 5-10 years ago, it was a real rarity to have that. So the fact that it's accessible to people who really need it, I think that's one of the blessings of having this medicine, on a positive, popular path. Yeah.
Do you find that younger people are coming in to see you?
Yes, actually, yeah, I do. I think at my age at that time, I think receiving acupuncture was still really rare. People didn't really seek it out, or if it was something not something that one would talk about really. And I think now it's become so mainstream that, younger people are seeking this as a form of therapy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I find that acupuncture can be real compelling. Acupuncture and herbal therapy, I think both of these modalities have to really be honored, because I think treatment, really helping someone to get to a place of health and healing, takes not only the physical aspect of it, but it takes the internal work as well. And I find that herbs just happen to do that at a different level, at a different approach. So I always like to recommend both modalities to really get a positive feedback.
Yeah, and so Janet does acupuncture, herbalism, and some massage therapy and sound therapy.
Yeah, so yes, body work, and I'm a cellist. I've been playing for many years, and I don't always incorporate music into, or at least playing the cello as a form of therapy, but it's something that I've been really kind of experimenting with lately. I've played around with tuning forks and those Tibetan bowls, but I find that the cello sometimes can be really, really powerful, and where to integrate that in a session can be interesting,
Yeah, I was listening to this random podcast talking about how when you have an emotion, sometimes when you verbalize what you're feeling, you're not letting that emotion out. But when you kind of create the sound that your body wants to create, when you feel that emotion, it helps it to dissipate in some capacity. So when right before my performance, actually, I was just feeling like a ball of nerves, and so I made the weirdest sound at home. I couldn't even describe it. It was like, ah! It was like all kinds of random stuff, but it helped.
Yeah.
It helped me alleviate that tension.
Yeah, to release that constraint, that restriction.
Well, Janet, since you're the expert here, and you've already brought so much balance and wellness into my life, not only with your treatments, but your energy. Janet's just awesome. I would love to know, especially as the winter's coming on, as females, what are some practical tips you would have for us to stay healthy?
I wash my hands a whole lot, and there's a lot of herbal remedies that help. At least for me, I find it prophylactically really helpful just to prevent any kind of seasonal disease or illnesses, coughs, colds.
For folks that don't live in New York City or don't have access to you, how do they go about researching or finding out what are the right herbs to take?
Oh, I would always recommend a consultation from an herbal medicine practitioner or Chinese medicine practitioner who practices herbs, because it's a lot better for someone else to really diagnose you clearly rather than you diagnosing yourself. Leave it to the professionals, I'd say.
So would you recommend doing this in person? Is this something you can do over the phone or no?
It's always better to do it in person. That way we can kind of take a look at your body constitution, feel your pulse, look at your tongue, ask you like all the pertinent questions that are necessary to formulate the script that's most reflective of where you are in your health. Yeah.
No, I definitely get it. You need someone to actually be able to see your physicality and understand through that whether or not, like what kind of herbs that you need for your body constitution and your health right now.
Right. I mean, for example, somebody might have a cold. Like you might have a cold and someone next to you might have a cold, but the way that disease kind of, the etiology, how it begins and how it manifests can be very different. So we'd want to treat it, according to your body type versus according to someone else's.
Yeah, and I love that when you give me an herbal blend, it's kind of iterative too. Like Janet will give me an herb blend and then check in on me in like 2 weeks or whatever, and just continue to help me assess whether or not it's being effective, and then, rejigger the constitution or the composition of those herbs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your body is organic and it responds to what you put in. And so your body will change from day 1 to day 2.
Yeah. So don't just go look it up and start eating stuff.
Although a lot of people do. And you know what? Hey, that's also that's cool too. I mean, at least you're being aware of your body and what your body needs.
Are there any good online resources for people to figure out what they should be taking?
That's a really good question. Camo actually has a website where I don't know if this is only on the practitioner side or whether it's also on clients as well, but they do have a site where they kind of give you, general symptoms.
Rundown.
Yeah, rundown of what this herb is. There's another website now that I'm thinking about it. It's called American Dragon. That's another really good website with so there are there are lots of resources. I think when you start looking into it, there are possibilities. As far as like a tea, I would suggest something as simple as taking ginger, cinnamon, and some jujube and boiling that up and drinking that in the morning. I think that's a really good recipe for circulation, digestion, and strengthening your immunity. This particular tea with the ginger, cinnamon, and dates or jujube is really good for this season, for this transitional season, just because the nature of the ginger is it helps to circulate your body and keep it warm. And yeah, I'd recommend that. I would add some pears to it, slice up some pears and boil that up along with the other ingredients to help open up your lungs and tonify your lungs as well.
So you mentioned herbs, washing your hands,
making tea.
There
are certain like acupressure points that you can use to help kind of strengthen your immune system that I always recommend for people. Acupressure points you can do as a daily self-care. So I think there's a lot of resources, a lot of information out there about really important points that you can use, that you can palpate and focus your attention on. And doing that as a daily practice can go a long ways in terms of longevity and just getting your body in a good place,
How do I find those resources?
So one place, Google is always a wealth of information. Oh, this one's a really good one. This is something that I've seen a whole bunch. It's called Acupressure's Potent Points. There's a book by Dan Bensky. I think it was a comprehensive type of acupuncture book that was written in collaboration with other people. But he has published some books on the foundation of Chinese medicine and the common acupuncture points that people would use and the pathways and the channels that are involved.
Whenever I have a session with you, it's like a friend therapy session. Yeah. Janet keeps it real, but you also just make sure that I am good emotionally. I think that's one of the first questions you always ask me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's very important for all of us to be mindful of our emotions too.
Yes, emotions can carry disease. How, they say too much anger can affect your sleep, can affect your blood pressure, can affect, so many different systems of your body. Sadness, the same thing. Even being overjoyed can also create imbalances in the body system.
Interesting.
So I've noticed patterns. I've definitely noticed patterns. And really what I don't understand scientifically, I look through patterns. And emotions are probably one of the clearest, the easiest things to follow. You just see that little trail, of evidence. I've seen experiences where people just get so angry and the next day they have a UTI. Or sometimes people get so sad and then they end up with the flu for like months or something. So, there's patterns of disease that occur. Other times you just don't know. And, I'm trying to find some sort of a relatable understanding of how our body works.
So Janet and I were talking a lot about finding joy. And she was encouraging me to get back into music because it gives me so much joy. So Janet, I have to now ask you, what gives you joy about being a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner?
I love seeing people get better. Like get to a point where progress can be made. A lot of people come in, like I came into my acupuncturist literally at my what is that analogy?
No, you were falling apart.
I was falling apart.
You needed somebody.
I was so falling apart. I was just a wreck. Anyway, after a serious injury, my acupuncturist, Dr. Dong-Ray Park, really put me back together again. I mean, in a way that I can't even describe at this point. I mean, I literally felt like I was walking on clouds. That first treatment was transformational. And visibly, I noticed a difference. I was like, wow, I want to pursue this because this is what I want to do. I want people to understand that this medicine is transformational. And so here I am.
I feel like everyone needs a Janet in her life. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hear Us Roar podcast, and I hope you enjoy this new segment. I'd love to know if you have any topics that you'd like for me to explore in the future. So if you're digging what you heard, please comment and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, pop over to www.hurpodcast.com so that you can stay up to date on all the latest episodes. It's a great way for us to keep in touch so that I can continue to encourage you to see your passions blossom. I'm your host, Sara Porritt, and until next time.